One time, there was some Hamas sitting around, talking, laughing, singing songs, and just acting silly. They were so wrapped up in their own conversations that they didn't pay attention to anything that was going on around them. Yet, off in the distance, old Hathaway was wandering around looking for something to eat. That old Hathaway, he was always hungry. His stomach was never full. As Hathaway walked towards the Hama, he could hear the Hama talking loudly and laughing foolishly. The Hama weren't paying any attention, so they never heard Hathaway walking up on them. Hathaway walked right up and stood behind the Hama. With his mouth open and drool dripping, Hathaway said, "I'm going to eat you all." All the Hamas turned and saw Hathaway just as he was about to grab them. "Run," said the Hama as they began to scatter in all directions. Hathaway tried to grab the Hama, but they were all too fast, except for one, Hama Shay. Hathaway grabbed Hama Shay and started pulling out his feathers. He pulled and pulled until Hama Shay was featherless. Hathaway then told Hama Shay, "Go to my house so my wife can cook you for dinner." Hama Shay started walking down the trail towards Hathaway's house, all sad and naked. When Hama Shay got to Hathaway's house, he stood at the doorway and said to Hathaway's wife, "Old Hathaway sent me here and said for you to cook me for dinner." Hathaway's wife smiled and said, "Wait right there." Hathaway's wife quickly picked up a few logs of mesquite wood and threw them on the fire. Next, she ran and grabbed her cooking pot and filled it with water and set it on the fireplace. Hathaway's wife turned and looked at the naked Hama Shay and said, "Well, what are you waiting for? Get in," as she pointed towards the cooking pot. Hama Shay hopped into the cooking pot without a word as the water began to heat up. He thought, "I need to get away from here, or I'll be dinner for Hathaway and his wife for sure." When Hathaway's wife wasn't watching, Hama Shay jumped out of the cooking pot and started looking around, wondering what he should do. Then he saw Hathaway's old dirty shoes lying on the floor of the house. Hama Shay grabbed one of the old dirty shoes and tossed it into the cooking pot, then quickly ran out of the house before Hathaway's wife noticed anything. Hathaway came home and called to his wife, "Old woman, is that Hama done cooking yet?" He, said Hathaway's wife. "Canuck, and you can eat." Hathaway smiled and his wife brought the cooking pot to him. Before Hathaway's wife could say anything, he grabbed the pot and gobbled down the old dirty shoes. Hathaway wiped his mouth and said, "That was the best Hama I ever had." Hathaway sat for a moment and a sour taste started to grow in his mouth. He looked around the room and noticed that one of his shoes was missing. Hathaway said to himself, "Hey, that's my shoe I ate." Hathaway got very angry and ran out of his house and started looking for Hama Shay all over the place. He stomped down the dusty trail, looking here and there, snarling and gritting his teeth as he looked for Hama Shay. Then, as he was walking by the side of the river, he saw Hama Shay in the water. He grabbed at Hama Shay, but couldn't get him. Hama Shay disappeared. Hathaway thought, he must be moving out of my reach, so he leaned in further to try and grab Hama Shay. But again, Hama Shay disappeared. Hathaway was getting angrier and angrier because Hama Shay kept getting away from him. Finally, Hathaway said, "I'm going to get you, even if it's the last thing I do." Hathaway looked down the river and he could see Hama Shay in the water. Hathaway leapt into the river, and as soon as he realized it, he was in deep water. Poor old Hathaway drowned trying to catch that Hama Shay, and all the time, Hama Shay sat on a mesquite tree branch that stretched out over the river.
Skukdash, Anyanapchegik, Mr. Ipa. Hello, my name is Mr. Ipa, and I'll be sharing a story with you for our autumn virtual storytelling. The story that I'm going to be sharing with you today is going to be How the Animals Got Fire. So, a long time ago, when the world was created and the animals were on the earth, they lived all together in a village. And as the seasons began to change, they noticed that in the wintertime, as fall came and it went into winter, it started to get colder. And they were talking amongst each other, and they all decided that they needed to do something to stay warm. So they called a meeting within the community, within their village. They all gathered and they said that they realized that the sun was going down sooner and it was coming up later. So the days were shorter, the nights were getting longer. And because of that, it was causing it to get colder. So they began to talk. They said, well, maybe we need to get some of that heat from the sun. So they talked to the birds, and the birds had said that they were going to go to the sun and get some of that heat, some of the fire from the sun and bring it back. And they said that's what we'll use to make fires in our homes at night when it's cold. So the birds had this task. So they all tried, each one of them, they tried to fly as high as they could to the sun, but none of them could fly far enough to make it to the sun. So after that didn't work, all the animals they came together again. They said, we're gonna have to come up with another plan. We need to figure out what we're gonna do to stay warm. And as they talked amongst each other and they came out with different ideas, one of the animals said, lightning, he has lightning bolts. And sometimes when those lightning bolts they strike the earth, it starts a fire. Maybe if we get one of those lightning bolts, we can use that and we can start fires in our home. And that's what we'll use to keep warm. So they all began to talk and they agreed that's what they were going to try and do. But as they talked about it, they realized that lightning wasn't just going to give up his lightning bolt willingly. And they decided that they were going to have to take it from him. So they began to talk, well, who's going to be the one that's going to sneak into over to where he lives at the top of the mountain and take it from him? So they started talking, and then just outside where all the animals were gathering, Mr. Bun, the coyote, he was listening in on the conversation, and he heard him being the opportunist that he is. He jumped in the conversation and he volunteered. He said, "I'll go." He said, "I'll go." He said, "I'll get that the lightning bolt from lightning." But the animals they were kind of leery of him because he's kind of mischievous a little bit. But nonetheless, he was still their relative, and they tried to treat him good. And they said, "No, Mr. Bond, maybe we'll wait. We'll see." But he was very persistent. He said, "I can do it." He said, "He'll never even know I'm there." He said, "I'll go and get it first thing in the morning. You won't have to worry about nothing." So after he wouldn't take no for an answer, the animals they finally gave in. They said, "You're gonna go first thing in the morning." And he said, "Yep." He said, "I'll leave first thing in the morning." He said, "I'll go up there to the top of the mountain where lightning lives. I'll get one of his lightning bolts and I'll bring it back down." He said, "And you guys will all be warm." So they gave him the benefit of the doubt. He said, "Okay, we're gonna trust in you, Bon." He said, "So we'll see when you get back." So the next morning the sun came up and they were all kind of anticipating to see Bun come out of his home where he lived and making his way towards the mountain. But when the sun came up and they kind of looked over to where he lived, they noticed they didn't see him come out of his home. And so they gave him a little bit of time. Well, maybe he's running a little bit late. Pretty soon the day went on, and finally he came out of his home, but he was just kind of walking around his home, kind of laying down, taking his time. There's like, well, we'll give him today. The animals kind of talk like that. And as time went on, then finally the night came and he never left. He never went to go get the lightning bolt. He said, "Well, we'll see what happens tomorrow." So this went on for a couple of days and he never went. Finally, the animals they got upset with him. He came around to the village and they started to talk with him. They started to be mean to him. They said, "Hey, what are you doing over here? You were supposed to go get us a lightning bolt. We're all freezing. We're cold. That's what we were going to use to stay warm." And they started really getting after him, and they're really picking on him. Finally, he got scared. He said, "Okay, okay, okay. I'll go right now." So then they chased him off. They told him, they said you were gonna do it, so you better go do it right now. So they chased him off and they chased him up the mountain. So there he went. He started making his way up to the mountain where lightning lived. When he got to the top of the mountain, he he seen the home of the lightning. And so he made his way over there to the home, and he was very sneaky. And if you've ever seen a bun when he's in the field or he's in the trees, he's very cautious, you know. So he was making his way there, and as he got closer, he was going to go and he was going to get that lightning bolt. But because Bond had a smell to him, lightning smelt him, and he figured that somebody was near his home. So he came out, and just as Bond grabbed that lightning bolt and he began to run away, lightning came out and he got his lightning bolts and he started to chase after him. And Bond was running, the lightning was chasing after him. Lightning got one of his lightning bolts and he threw it at him and he hit him. And when he hit him, he shocked Bond. He shocked him and he burnt him. And when he did that, that lightning bolt hit him, he dropped the lightning bolt that he was carrying in his mouth. He dropped it and he kept running because he was so scared. He started making that little noise that dogs make when they get hit. So because of that, he didn't get the lightning bolt. He came back, and when he came back to the village, all the animals were looking towards him and they said, where's the lightning bolt? And then they started to laugh at him. They're like, why do you look like that? Because when that lightning bolt, it hit him in the back and it burnt him. So now when you see Bun, he has his burnt mark on his back. Not only does he have a burnt mark, but on his tail, he used to just have a straight tail like a dog. But when that lightning bolt hit him and it shocked him, his tail puffed up. So that's why his tail's puffy. So they laughed at him and they said, we knew you weren't going to do it. So they all came together again and they started talking. Well, who can we send? We need somebody that's going to be faster than Bun and not get shot. They started talking and then they said, we'll send the Chuv, the jackrabbit. He's fast. He can do it. So then the Chuv did the same thing. He made his way up the mountain to where lightning lived. And when he got up there, he seen lightning's home. He seen the lightning bolts. He went down there as fast as he could. And when he grabbed it, he took off. With his big feet hitting the ground, the lightning hurt him and he came running. He grabbed his lightning bolts and he did the same thing. He chased after him. And when he threw that lightning bolt at Chuv, and it hit him and it shocked him. And Chuv dropped the lightning bolt that he was carrying. And he got back down to the bottom of the mountain where the village was, where the animals lived. They were a little bit more sympathetic for Chuv. They said, "Oh no, what happened to you, Chuv?" Because they seen that when that lightning bolt hit him, it left a black spot on his back too. And at the same time, it burnt the tip of his ears. So today, when you see the jackrabbit, he's got black marks on the tops of his ears because that's when he's got burnt. So they were a little bit more sympathetic to him because just the way that he was compared to the Bond. So since that didn't work out, they came together and they started to talk. They're like, we need to get somebody who's really fast that can outrun that lightning bolt. So far, everybody's been able to outrun lightning, but when he throws that lightning bolt, he hits everybody that goes over there. So they started to talk again. Then finally, the Tadai, the roadrunner, he volunteered. He said, "I'll go." He said, "I'll go and get the lightning bolt from Lightning." They said, "Oh, really? Okay, good." And they were all happy. All right, so they were going to try again. So now it was the Tadai. Remember, Tadai is the roadrunner. It was his turn. So he, just like everybody else, he made his way to the top of the mountain. He was very cautious. And if you ever watch a roadrunner, he runs so far and he stops and he looks around, then he runs again. So that's how he made his way. And he didn't go just in a straight line. He kind of zigzagged back and forth. And he got up and he got as close as he could to the house of Thunder. He got up there, he looked around, he didn't see him. So he ran as fast as he could. He ran over there and he grabbed one of those lightning bolts. And when he grabbed one of those lightning bolts, he took off and he started running. But by then, Lightning, he already had his guard up. So he was already expecting somebody to come back. So he heard that sound, and as soon as he heard the Roadrunner running off with that lightning bolt. He came out and he grabbed his lightning bolts and he started to chase after Tadai. Tadai had that lightning bolt and he was running. The thunder was chasing after him and he was throwing his lightning bolts at him. But every time that he threw those lightning bolts, the Tadai would jump. He would jump out of the way like that. But then those lightning bolts were getting so close to him, it started to singe his feathers. If you ever watch a Roadrunner, when he runs or he flies, he doesn't fly, he kind of glides. Every time lightning threw one of his lightning bolts at the Tadai, and he heard that sound coming over the lightning bolt, he would jump and he would open his wings and he would kind of glide out of the way. But those lightning bolts were coming so close to him that they were singeing his feathers on the bottom and then his tail feathers in the back. So he would jump this way and he would run some more. Another lightning bolt would come and he would jump over here. And pretty soon, lightning was chasing him. He was getting better at his aim. And those lightning bolts were getting closer to him. He threw the lightning bolt and it got so close to the Roadrunner's face that it burned him right here on the side, just right next to his eye, just right here. And he barely dodged it. And he was running again. He threw another lightning bolt and he did the same thing on this side. So he kept running. Pretty soon, lightning ran out of lightning bolts and he gave up and he let him have that one. And then the Tadai made his way down the mountain. He kept running as fast as he could. And when he got back to the village, the animals had seen him where those lightning bolts had almost got him. He had a burn. He had a red mark right here on his eye and right here, right next to his eye. Then they looked at his feathers. On the tips of his feathers, they were white because that's how close that lightning bolt came. And then even they were kind of afraid at the end a little bit because of the heat. Then when that lightning had struck the ground and it kind of went and blew up, I guess, and it burnt singed his feathers. So when the animals seen him, they were all happy and they were thankful. They said they're forever going to be thankful and grateful that when they see him and that they see how his feathers are and how he has those burn marks on his eyes, they're forever going to be grateful that he brought the fire to the animals so that they can stay warm. So that's how animals got fire, was through the Roadrunner. The Bun and the Chuv, they tried, they weren't successful, but the Tadai is the one that did it. So in some of my exploring out in the desert, I've come across some Roadrunner feathers and I have an example for you here. So if you look at the feathers on the tips, these are tail feathers. So if you look at the tips of them, right here, we see where the lightning had turned them white. And even on the ends, if you look at them, they're kind of frayed. They kind of look like they got singed. Here's another example. So if you look at the end of this one, see those little white spots on there? That's where he got singed from the lightning bolts. And if you're able to find a picture or if you're able to see a Roadrunner up close, he's got red marks right here on his eyes. There's no feathers right there. It's just a burn mark. That's where those lightning bolts, they almost got him. So that's our story. That's my story that was shared with me by some different relatives. Maybe some of you know this story, have heard this story, or have a different version of it. I encourage you to share it with your families. I really appreciate all of you that tuned in for our event. And I encourage you all to talk to your elders, talk to your families, gather any kind of stories that they may have and share them with one another, even share them with me. I'm always open to learning new stories. Until then, wear your mask, be safe, and I wish you all the best. The Hood Guy. Thank you.
Wybon's coat is the color of sand. Story from Pima Indian Legends, Anna Mooreshaw. Illustrated by Susan Killian. Coyote had often wondered why his friends stared at him with amused eyes. One bright day he found the answer. He discovered his shabby gray coat in the mirror of the clear blue water of the river. "So that is how I look? Faded and shaggy like an old man?" Coyote wailed as he walked beside the blue river. He remembered then his little friend Bluebird, who had once told him of the magic lake in which he bathed to restore his old faded feathers to their original beautiful blue. "Perhaps Bluebird can help me," Coyote cried. The next day Coyote called on Bluebird in the woods. "I need your help, my friend," said Coyote, sadly looking at his shabby coat. "My coat is so faded. Do you think you can help me get a blue coat like yours?" "It will be very simple," answered Bluebird, glancing at Coyote with pity. "Come with me to my magic lake. I need to renew my coat too." They started at once to the magic lake, which was at the edge of a dense forest. On their journey, Bluebird gave Coyote some advice. "There are some rules to follow, Coyote, if you want to use the magic lake. After your coat is changed to a beautiful blue color, you must not look at your coat until 4 days have passed." "I will do anything you say," promised Coyote eagerly. "And you must not look at your shadow either until 4 days have passed," added Bluebird. "If you do not follow these rules, your coat will turn back to the same faded color." Coyote didn't like the rules. He didn't see how he could wait 4 days to see himself in a beautiful coat. But what else could he do? He needed a new coat, so he agreed to do everything his little friend had said. When they arrived at the lake, Bluebird stood on the shore and shrilly sang his magic song. "Clear blue water, change my faded hue into a pretty blue." After each singing, Bluebird jumped into the lake. He went through the same process 4 times. Each dip made his faded coat turn a brighter blue. Coyote's eyes twinkled merrily. "I'll be the most handsome fellow in the world," he whispered happily, waiting his turn to have his coat changed. He sang along with Bluebird to learn the magic words, and before long he was singing the whole song at the top of his voice. When Bluebird came ashore the 4th time, he had a beautiful blue coat. "Coyote, you've learned all the things you should do to obtain your wish. Remember my warning, and your coat will be beautiful too." Bluebird flew away and left Coyote alone by the lake. The time had come. Coyote imitated his friend, singing and jumping into the magic lake in quick succession. After the 4th dip, he came ashore a new creature. How eager he was to get back to the village to show his friends his bright, shiny new coat. He walked along the sandy trail that led to the village. Coyote was in high spirits. "I'll be envied by the whole tribe. Now people will not make me the laughingstock," Coyote said proudly. But alas, Coyote forgot Bluebird's second rule. He glanced slyly at his shadow. At that moment his foot bumped on a mesquite stump in the middle of the path, and he fell head first into the sand. Coyote hurriedly jumped up and shook his body this way and that way, but without any result. The sand was covered his wet coat and would not come off. He ran back to the magic lake and again went through the complete process of singing and dipping. But it was hopeless. Coyote finally gave up and sadly went home. And that is why Coyote's coat today is the color of sand.